Greetings, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this latest edition of Read TFOS, where I take old stories I've narrated and update them to modern audio standards. This particular story is called 14 Beings Left, One State Back, written by Alt Cypher. Professor, I don't understand this reading assignment, Laura said. Professor Vey took his reading glasses off and turned to her. Which part of it? Well, all of it, I guess. No, that's not right. Why are we reading this? You're an anthropology professor, and you've got us reading a physics textbook, Laura said. She sat in the one uncluttered chair in the professor's office. Stacks of papers climbed towards the ceiling and made the room feel stuffy. Yes, I am an anthropology professor, and yes, that is a physics textbook. Do you know what my specialty is, Laura? Xenoanthropology, she said. Close enough. So, what does xenoanthropology mean? Laura paused for a moment, wary of the rhetorical trap. The study of ancient alien civilizations? Very good. How many ancient alien civilizations have we found? There are 14 known alien civilizations, and some theories estimate up to several thousand more, Laura said. Correct. 14 known, maybe many more unknown. Now tell me, what is the Fermi paradox? The Fermi paradox is the apparent contradiction between the highly probable estimates of other intelligent life in the universe and the apparent lack of any other civilizations. But Professor, the Fermi paradox is an answer. They're all dead, Laura said. Yes. First, well done on reciting the textbook definition of the Fermi paradox. We'll get to the other part in a moment. But can you explain to me the Fermi paradox in your own words, in plain English? Well, Laura said, space is really, really big. There are billions of stars and 10 times as many planets. Everywhere we look, we should see some kind of evidence of intelligent life. Radio signals or ships or something, Laura said. Not bad. That is a more or less correct restatement. Now to go back to your earlier statement. They're all dead. Explain that to me, please. There's no evidence of intelligent life because there isn't any left. There have been many other civilizations, but they're all died, Laura said. Have you studied any of those alien civilizations? The professor asked. Sure, in grade school, up through high school. Goldman's aliens, the Chinee, the Tala, Laura said. Then what did you learn about them? Well, they're all really different. Goldmans were a primarily aquatic species that had technology based on hydraulics. The Tala were strict carnivores who never developed farming from what we can tell. All true, but I was thinking about what things are common amongst all of them. What trait or traits do all 14 known alien species share? Well, Laura said, they're all dead, I guess. True. Go on, the professor said. They're all relatively close to us, within this galaxy and on this side of it. Also true. Let me ask this. How many worlds did we discover each of them on? Each species has only been found on one world, Laura said. There it is. No known alien species has ever been found off their home world. Now, let me ask you this. How many habitable planets are there in the galaxy? Laura stopped to think. I don't know. Millions? Billions? Fair enough. The last reliable estimate I saw had the number of Earth-like planets at a minimum of 50 million, with a possibility of up to 1 billion. That's a lot of planets that can support our brand of life and the lives of most of the known aliens. One more question. How many colonies do we have? 6 or 7, I think, Laura said. They just founded number 9 last week. But either way, we have many more than 0. So why? Why do humans have multiple off-world colonies, and there are 14 other species that have none? That, in fact, died on their home worlds, the professor said. I don't know, Laura said. That book you brought to ask about, it's a basic physics textbook. There are only a couple chapters I would assign you to read. Relativity being the main one. Can you guess why?
Relativity has to do with time changing as you go faster, right?
It does. But the reason I'm assigning that book is to give you all a very definite sense of scale, the professor said. In Einstein's realm, nothing can ever go faster than the speed of light. Now that's a pretty high speed limit, but it is a limit. At the speed of light, how long would it take to get to the nearest extrasolar star?
4 years, right?
A little over that, but yes. Now what about the next star out?
I don't know,
Laura said. That's fine, it's years. And so on and so on. To cross from one side of our galaxy to another would take how long at the speed of light?
I don't...
About 100,000 years, the professor said. As fast as light is, it still takes 100,000 years to cross the Milky Way. Modern humans, Homo sapiens, only evolved 200,000 to 300,000 years ago. Crossing the galaxy is not measured in a person's lifetime. It's measured in a species' lifetime. It's massive. And that's just one galaxy. There are billions of galaxies out there. The next closest galaxy would take about 2.5 million years to reach at light speed. Space is mind-numbingly vast.
So that's why we need to read a physics book for an anthropology course.
We're getting there. Okay, so if you're stuck at relativistic speeds or slower, and you look around and see just how frighteningly big an empty space is, what is your first reaction?
To feel very, very small,
Laura said. Very, very small, but suppose some clever monkey on an unremarkable world figures out that there is a way to cheat the system. Suppose these clever monkeys use this cheat to develop fantastical ships that sail through space, completely ignoring relativity.
I'd feel, not so small.
Hope, Miss Elder. Hope. Those aliens looked out at the universe and saw all that empty, lonely space, and they turned back. Their civilizations collapsed because it's all just too much. They gave up hope, so their societies deteriorated and collapsed. We know them only by their ruins and their solitary homeworlds. You are reading a physics book to understand that which you study. Despondency, futility, the loss of hope.
But that didn't happen to us,
Laura said. No, it didn't. We seem to be the exception to the rule. When the other civilizations stared into the void, they blinked. We did not. We took it as a challenge. We created the box drive. We went out into the void, screaming out of defiance with every faster-than-light ship we built. For a human to understand what those aliens went through may never be possible. But we can glimpse it. I've assigned that book so that we can have a basis of understanding those other civilizations. Our hope, our continued efforts in the face of overwhelming odds are what separates us from those aliens, and it is exactly that which we must study. End of story. Story number 2. The God Emperor. Written by Dicemonger. The Grand God Emperor Zorozexax, 253rd of his line, master of the void, beloved of eternity, sat on the golden throne, waiting. Actually, he was ex-Grand God Emperor, master of his line, ex-master of the void, maybe not so as beloved as he thought by eternity, all because of those damned humans. It had been routine. It hadn't even been brought to his attention when the perimeter fleets moved to embrace another race into the Empire. Well, embrace, conquer, same thing. The humans had resisted, and then they struck back. And the humans didn't fight honorably. They had intimidated fleets into surrender without a single shot fired. They had incited the client races into rebellion against the Empire. They hacked the military networks and subverted the AIs. And rather than meet the Grand Forces in honorable battle, they destroyed them with orbital bombardment. The Empire was 1,000,000 years old. Its armies had countless victories on their rolls. Its institutions had outlived even the memory of their founding. Despite the best efforts of the archivists, probably more was forgotten of its history than was remembered. The Empire had stood for 1,000,000 years, and the humans destroyed it in 4. 4 years ago, the humans had started their assault on the Empire, and 6 days ago, they and their allies had destroyed the Imperial home fleet. The plasma-scorched, burning hulks of the fleet could still be vaguely seen in the night sky. A diffuse glow in the direction of the Wormgate, as large as an outstretched pincer. After that final loss, Zor's axe had surrendered. Knowing the humans' propensity for orbital bombardment, he had to. To save the historical palaces and archives of the home world, and, entirely coincidentally of course, his own exoskeleton, he had surrendered with dignity and ordered his people to do the same. That was 6 days ago. 6 days. And he had yet to receive an envoy or even a reply from the humans. He knew they had landed. He knew they had seized the military installations and the administrative complexes. He had received regular updates until the point where they one by one stopped reporting back. The last he had heard from outside the palace was 4 days ago. And still no envoy. It was both subtly terrifying and utterly infuriating. Never, since his rise to the throne, never had he been left waiting like this. His ruminations were disturbed as one of his personal guards entered the throne room, carefully keeping his gaze on the floor away from his royal presence. "Beloved guard Emperor, an envoy from the humans has arrived." The guard hesitated. His gaze flickered towards, but not quite reaching, Zozaxix. "I think." Zolzizaz instinctively snarled. He thought. What was that supposed to mean? But as a magnanimous ruler, he quickly suppressed the anger. At this moment, the ramblings of lesser castes were beneath his notice. He airily waved a pincer at the guard. "Send them in." The guard bowed low and quickly disappeared. A minute later, the human entered. Zolzexax felt the snow building again. The human had no entourage, and his clothing was drab. A grey coat, grey leg coverings, and what looked like a piece of cloth around his neck. Under one arm he had what looked like a head covering, and under the other some kind of square leather case. He hardly looked like an envoy worthy of an imperial meeting. Still, the human approached, ignoring all the customary bowing and scraping of court etiquette. This was probably fair. The humans did come as conquerors, after all. The human continued approaching, completely ignoring the line on the floor which indicated the closest that a beloved of eternity could be approached. This irked Zolzexax. He wasn't used to being approached so closely by outsiders, but they were his conquerors, he reminded himself. The human approached almost to the throne, and Zolzexax opened his mouth to speak, but the human spoke first. "Are you Zolzexax?" A bit of a snarl showed on Zolzexax's face. Of course he was Zolzexax. What game was the human playing? Still he replied, "Yes, I am Zolzexax. 2,503rd of my line." The human pulled some papers from his leather case. Good. My name is Frank. I'm here to enter you into the system. First off, as a citizen of the Terran Federation, you are eligible for universal income as long as you don't opt out." What? Zaxxas replied flatly. This was not at all going how he had expected. "Universal income. It is the opinion of the Federation that every member should have a sustainable income, even if they can't find work or desire to enter non-paying callings. Speaking of work, If the change in administration means that you have lost your previous job, it is also within my responsibility to help you find a new job, should you desire it.
This time old Zexax did audibly snarl, I am the God Emperor. I have ruled 1,000 worlds for 140 years. I will not.
The human interrupted him. This was the first time in the same 140 years that anyone had interrupted him.
Ah, yes, sir. How did I miss that? He tapped his papers. It says so right here. Well, with that kind of resume, I see 2 different tracks. You could either enter the administrative track. With your credentials, planetary governor might be an immediate option. Maybe even sector administrator.
He leaned in closer and confided with a wink.
Given the recent events, we're kind of running short on administrative personnel.
He straightened up again and continued,
Alternatively, you could go into entertainment, write a biography, go on a tour talking about your life and experiences. I'm sure you could gain success here. Not every day an ousted emperor drops by to reveal his experiences.
As he jotted down a few notes, he said,
Though, if it were me, I would take the administrative track. There's nothing like helping people, right?
Zexax's mind was roiling. This was all happening too fast. He was a god emperor. There was no way that he would be reduced to...
The human flipped to a new piece of paper and frowned. Oh, right. Technically, the palace is owned by the government. I believe it is in the process of being designated as a heritage site. So we'll need to find you some public housing until you can find your own place to live.
End of story.
I would like to thank our T5 members and patrons, Casper Arnholtz, John Creighton, Vidmori, 050, Dragzoon WRE, and Elijah Silvercross. Thank you very much.